The Solaris Deep Space Repair Station hung against the backdrop of Jupiter's swirling storms like a mechanical spider web, its gleaming arms extending outward to cradle vessels of all shapes and sizes. Director Maya Patel stood at her observation window, watching the latest arrival with particular interest. The hegemony warship Eternal Dawn dwarfed everything else in the dock, its quantum crystalline hull reflecting sunlight in ways that made human eyes water. "They say it's beyond repair," her assistant director, James Chen, said quietly. The hegemony's own engineering corps gave up after 3 attempts. Maya allowed herself a small smile. "They always say that. That's why they're here." The Eternal Dawn's damage wasn't immediately apparent to the naked eye, but the station's quantum imaging systems told a different story. Deep within the vessel's crystalline lattice, microscopic fractures spread like a cancer, threatening to shatter the entire ship if its main drives were engaged. The damage had occurred during a classified military operation, and the hegemony, usually too proud to seek help from lesser civilizations, had finally turned to humanity's repair stations out of desperation. The ship's senior engineer, High Commander Ixel, stood rigidly in Maya's office an hour later. The tall, crystalline being's faceted surface rippled with patterns of deep purple, a sign of distress in their species. "Our understanding of quantum crystalline engineering spans 50,000 years," Ixel said, their voice resonating like wind through crystal chimes. "Yet this damage pattern defies all known repair protocols. The fractures exist in a state of quantum superposition. Attempting to repair one causes others to worsen simultaneously." Maya studied the holographic diagnostics floating between them. "Interesting. Your engineers tried to force the quantum state to collapse into a single pattern, didn't they?" "Of course. That is the only approved methodology." "Well, there's your problem." Maya gestured, and the hologram expanded to show the fracture pattern in 4 dimensions. "You're thinking like a crystal. We need to think like water." Ixel's surface rippled with confusion patterns. "I don't understand." Maya pulled up another hologram, this one showing waves on an ocean shore. "Early in our history, humans learned that sometimes the best way to handle a powerful force isn't to resist it, but to flow with it. Your quantum fractures are trying to exist in multiple states. Let's work with that instead of against it." She keyed her comm. "Dr. Rashid, would you join us, please?" Dr. Amira Rashid arrived moments later, her hands already covered in the specialized nanogel used for quantum crystalline manipulation. The theoretical physicist turned engineer had been studying the Eternal Dawn scans since its arrival. "I think we can adapt the quantum uncertainty principle to our advantage," Amira explained, manipulating the hologram. "Instead of forcing the fractures into a single state, we create a controlled uncertainty field that allows them to exist in multiple states simultaneously. Then we gradually collapse the field in a way that guides them toward the most stable configuration." "Impossible," Ixel declared. "The energy requirements alone would be massive using conventional methods," Maya agreed. "But we're not going to use conventional methods. We're going to use jazz." The next 12 hours were a symphony of controlled chaos that horrified the hegemony observers. Human engineers deployed experimental quantum field generators originally designed for an entirely different purpose. They improvised solutions on the fly, making adjustments based on intuition as much as data. Most shockingly to the hegemony observers, they deliberately increased the quantum uncertainty in some areas to reduce it in others, playing the fracture patterns like a complex instrument. "This defies all established principles," Ixel protested, their crystalline form vibrating with anxiety as they watched humans apparently making the damage worse in certain sections. "Established principles are guidelines, not chains," Maya replied, her eyes fixed on the quantum flux readings. "Sometimes you have to break things a little more to fix them properly." The breakthrough came during hour 13. Dr. Rashid, running on nothing but caffeine and stubbornness, noticed a harmonic pattern in the quantum fluctuations that nobody had spotted before. By adjusting their field generators to resonate with this pattern, They found they could guide the fractures into a stable configuration without forcing them. It's like conducting an orchestra, Amira explained to the bewildered hegemony engineers. Each fracture pattern is playing its own quantum melody. We're not trying to force them all to play the same note. We're helping them find harmony. The repair took 3 more days of careful work, but the results were undeniable. Not only were the fractures stabilized, but the quantum crystalline lattice was actually stronger than before, having found a natural harmonic state that the hegemony's rigid engineering protocols had never allowed it to achieve. As the Eternal Dawn prepared to depart, Ixal approached Maya one final time. The hegemony engineer's surface now rippled with patterns of deep gold, indicating profound respect. "We came here believing we had exhausted all possibilities," Ixal said. "We were wrong. There were not only solutions we had not considered, but entire approaches to engineering that our civilization had never imagined. How did humans develop such unorthodox methods?" Maya looked out at the repair station, where teams of humans were already preparing to tackle the next impossible job. Necessity, desperation, and a healthy disrespect for the impossible. Early in our technological development, we rarely had the luxury of doing things the right way. We had to improvise, adapt, and overcome. Those lessons became part of our engineering DNA. She turned back to Ixal. "Your civilization built its engineering principles on a foundation of perfect crystalline order. We built ours on duct tape, and what if we tried this? Both approaches have value. But when the ordered solution fails, sometimes chaos is the answer," Ixal completed, their surface showing patterns that indicated deep thought. "Perhaps it is time for the hegemony to revise some of our ancient principles." As the massive warship disappeared into quantum space, Maya was already reviewing the specs for their next challenge, a Genri bioship suffering from a supposedly incurable form of hull necrosis. She smiled. Another impossible problem, just waiting for a human solution. James found her later in her office, poring over xenobiology texts and making notes about theoretical applications of human tissue regeneration techniques to living starship hulls. "The hegemony just transmitted their official report on the Eternal Dawn repairs," he said. "They're recommending that all their quantum crystalline vessels undergo periodic maintenance at human facilities. Apparently, we understand their ships better than they do." Maya shook her head. "No, we just understand that not understanding something completely doesn't mean you can't work with it effectively. Sometimes the best solutions come from embracing uncertainty rather than trying to eliminate it." She gestured at the schematics of the waiting bioship. "Now, what do you think would happen if we tried to adapt regenerative stem cell principles to living hull material?" James groaned. "You're going to give the Genri engineers heart attacks. All 3 of them." "Probably," Maya agreed cheerfully, "but they'll get over it when it works." In the vast repair bays of Solaris Station, human engineers continued their work, tackling each impossible problem with that unique combination of theoretical knowledge, practical experience, and willingness to try solutions that no sane person would consider reasonable. Their reputation spread through the galaxy, not as the most advanced or most knowledgeable engineers, but as the ones you called when the conventional solutions had failed, and you needed someone willing to think far, far outside the box. After all, as Maya often said, the box was usually part of the problem. Word of the Eternal Dawn's repair spread through the galactic engineering community like a quantum shockwave. Within weeks, Solaris Station's repair crew had tripled. Maya found herself turning away all but the most challenging cases, referring simpler repairs to other human stations scattered throughout the sector. The Genri bioship proved to be just the beginning. Its living hull had begun to calcify, a condition previously considered terminal. But Dr. Rashid's radical application of modified stem cell therapy, combined with some creative use of human marine biology principles, had not only halted the calcification but reversed it. The success brought even more impossible cases to their door. Maya stood in the central control room, surveying their current projects through the quantum imaging system. In Bay 3, a team was treating a myriad collective ship whose neural pathways had begun to degrade. They were using adapted human neuroplasticity techniques, essentially teaching the ship's distributed consciousness how to rewire itself. In Bay 7, engineers were helping a Vorax mining vessel whose quantum fold drive had become temporarily desynchronized, causing parts of the ship to experience time at different rates. Director, James called from his station. "We have a priority transmission from the Hegemony Science Council." Maya raised an eyebrow. The Hegemony, while grateful for the Eternal Dawn repairs, had been notably quiet since then. "Put them through." The holographic projection showed 3 Hegemony Council members, their crystalline forms pulsing with urgent patterns. Director Patel, the central figure, chimed, "We have detected a critical flaw in our quantum crystalline engineering designs, one that may affect thousands of vessels." The counselor's surface rippled with embarrassment patterns. "Our analysis of your repair methods on the Eternal Dawn revealed something we had never considered. The quantum harmonics you utilized to stabilize the fracture patterns, they exposed a fundamental resonance vulnerability in our basic ship design." "Let me guess," Maya said, "under certain conditions, your quantum crystalline matrices could experience cascade failures similar to what happened to the Eternal Dawn. Worse, given the right catalyst, entire fleets could shatter simultaneously." The counselor's patterns shifted to deep indigo terror. Maya had learned. "We need your help, not just to prevent this, but to understand how your engineers saw something in our technology that we missed for 50,000 years." Maya smiled. "You've been looking at your ships as perfect crystalline structures. We look at them as works in progress, always changing, always adapting. Sometimes you need fresh eyes, especially eyes that don't know something's supposed to be impossible." Over the next several weeks, Solaris Station became the center of an unprecedented collaboration. Hegemony engineers worked alongside humans, learning to see their own technology in a new light. Dr. Rashid led a team that developed a retrofitting process to eliminate the resonance vulnerability, while simultaneously improving the ship's quantum efficiency. But it wasn't all smooth sailing. During a critical phase of testing, a Hegemony science vessel's quantum matrix began to destabilize. The ship's own engineers froze, their training utterly inadequate for the cascading failure they were witnessing. It was James Chen who acted first, breaking every safety protocol in the manual. He rerouted power from the station's main reactor directly into the vessel's quantum field generators, creating a controlled overload that forced the matrix to reset. The maneuver could have destroyed both the ship and half the station. Instead, it worked perfectly. That was either brilliant or insane. The Hegemony chief engineer later told him, their surface showing mixed patterns of horror and admiration. "That's humanity in a nutshell," James replied with a shrug. "Sometimes the difference between brilliant and insane is just whether or not it works." The collaboration yielded more than just technical solutions. The Hegemony engineers began to adopt human engineering philosophies, learning to trust intuition alongside pure mathematics. Meanwhile, human engineers gained deeper understanding of quantum crystalline technology, leading to innovations that neither species could have developed alone. Maya found Amira in her lab late one night, surrounded by holographic projections of quantum field equations. The physicist-engineer had been working on something new, something beyond mere repairs. "I think we've been thinking too small," Amira said without preamble. The Hegemony built their ships based on perfect crystalline patterns because that's what they understood. We humans adapted their technology using our understanding of chaos theory and emergent behavior. But what if we combined both approaches from the ground up? She gestured, and the hologram shifted to show a radical new ship design. It utilized quantum crystalline technology, but in ways the Hegemony had never imagined, incorporating principles of fluid dynamics, neural networks, and even ecological systems. "It's not just about fixing ships anymore," Amira continued, her eyes bright with excitement. "We can help build better ones, ships that are both ordered and adaptive, structured and flexible. The Hegemony provides the foundation, but humanity's gift is showing how that foundation can grow and change." Maya studied the designs, already seeing the potential. The Hegemony Council will have a fit when they see this. It breaks about half their fundamental engineering principles. Good. Amira grinned. Breaking principles is how we make new ones. As if to prove their point, a priority alert flashed across Maya's comm. A collective ship had arrived at the outer markers, its hybrid organic-mechanical systems experiencing a type of failure never seen before. The ship's machine logic and organic components had developed conflicting operational paradigms, effectively giving it a form of technological schizophrenia. Now that, Maya said, reading the preliminary scans is going to be interesting. Want to help me figure out how to give therapy to a starship? Amira was already reaching for her tools. Impossible problems are the best kind. They're the ones nobody has failed at yet. As they headed to the repair bay, Maya reflected on how far they'd come. Humanity had earned its place in the galactic community not through superior technology or ancient wisdom, but through their willingness to try the untried, to think the unthinkable, and to occasionally break everything in the pursuit of making it better. The impossible problems kept coming, and humanity kept solving them, one crazy solution at a time. The alert came during station night cycle, blaring through the quiet halls of Solaris Station, with an urgency that brought Maya running to the control center in her sleek clothes. The holographic displays were awash with red warning indicators, and James was already coordinating with multiple engineering teams. Mass quantum disturbance detected in the Arcturus sector, he reported grimly. A hegemony research facility was attempting to develop their own version of our quantum harmonics technology. Something went wrong. Very wrong. The data streaming in painted a nightmare scenario. The failed experiment had created a cascading quantum resonance wave that was spreading through space, affecting every quantum crystalline structure in its path. 3 hegemony ships had already shattered. More importantly, the wave was heading straight for the Perseus Arm's main shipping lanes, where hundreds of vessels would be caught in its path. Time to impact, Maya demanded, already sending emergency alerts to every ship in dock. 4 hours until it hits the shipping lanes, 6 until it reaches us. James's fingers flew over his console. The hegemony is trying to evacuate the lanes, but there's not enough time to move everyone. And even if they could, the wave will keep going. It'll hit populated systems eventually. Maya keyed the station-wide comm. Dr. Rashid to control. Emergency priority. All engineering teams on standby. This is not a drill. Within minutes, the control room had transformed into a crisis center. Amira arrived with her hair wild, and her eyes already rapidly scanning through quantum field equations. Hegemony engineers joined via quantum link, their crystalline forms vibrating with panic patterns. The wave is sustained by its own momentum now, one hegemony scientist reported. Every crystalline structure it destroys adds to its power. Traditional damping fields barely slow it. Then we don't try to stop it, Amira said suddenly, looking up from her calculations. We redirect it, change its quantum frequency to something harmless. Impossible, a hegemony engineer chimed. The energy required would be massive. Maya finished, but her mind was already racing. Unless, James, what ships do we have in dock right now? 3 hegemony cruisers, the Vorax mining vessel, 2 collective ships, and the Genri bioship we just finished repairing. Maya's eyes lit up. Perfect. Get me a channel to all ships, priority override. What followed was perhaps the most audacious engineering experiment in human history. While the quantum wave approached, Solaris Station became the center of a mad scramble to implement Maya's plan. Each docked ship was carefully positioned, their various power systems linked in ways their designers had never intended. The hegemony ships will act as primary resonators, Amira explained as teams rushed to modify quantum field generators. The Vorax vessel's temporal drive gives us the ability to manipulate the wave's time stream. The collective ships provide processing power, and the Genri bioship acts as a living quantum dampener. Maya finished. Its organic crystalline structure can adapt to changes in the wave frequency in real time. This is madness, one of the hegemony counselors protested via quantum link. Linking these technologies was never meant to be possible. The interactions are completely unpredictable. Welcome to human engineering, James said with a grim smile. Unpredictable is our specialty. With less than an hour until the wave reached the shipping lanes, they began powering up their jury-rigged system. The entire station thrummed with energy as technologies from 5 different species were forced to work together in ways that defied their original designs. Wave approaching shipping lanes, James reported tensely. Impact in 5 minutes. Maya stood at her command station, watching the holographic representation of their desperate gambit. Amira, start the sequence. The hegemony ship's quantum matrices began to pulse in harmony, creating a complex interference pattern. The Vorax ship's temporal drive spun up, its exotic energies warping spacetime in carefully calculated ways. The collective ship's massive neural networks processed the incoming data in real time, making microscopic adjustments to the field. And at the center of it all, the Genri bioship quivered like a living thing, its crystalline biology resonating with the combined energies of the other ships. Wave entering the field now, James announced. For a moment, it seemed like the universe held its breath. The quantum wave, visible on their sensors as a front of reality warping energy, met their combined field. For one terrifying second, nothing happened. Then the wave began to change. It's working, Amira shouted, her hands dancing over her controls. The wave's quantum signature is shifting. The Genri ship is adapting to it faster than it can maintain coherence. Maya watched in amazement as the destructive wave was caught in their makeshift field, its energy twisted and reformed by the combined technologies of 5 species working as one. The wave didn't disappear. That much energy couldn't simply vanish. But it was transformed into a harmless quantum ripple that would dissipate naturally over time. The shipping lanes, and the hundreds of ships in them, were saved. In the aftermath, as engineering teams began the careful process of disconnecting their improvised system, Maya found herself in a conference call with representatives from a dozen species. What you did today should have been impossible, the Hegemony Council chairman said, their crystalline form showing patterns of deep respect. Linking these technologies, redirecting a quantum cascade wave. By all known science, none of it should have worked. That's the thing about impossible problems, Maya replied. They're only impossible until someone who doesn't know that comes along and solves them anyway. The chairman's patterns shifted to show curiosity. How do humans do it? How do you consistently find solutions that defy conventional wisdom? Maya thought about it for a moment. We've learned that the universe is far more flexible than anyone gives it credit for. It's not about knowing what's possible. It's about being willing to try anything when the stakes are high enough. Today, we needed these technologies to work together, so we found a way to make it happen. And if it had failed, then we would have tried something else, Maya said simply. That's the real secret of human engineering. We never assume anything is truly impossible. We just haven't found the right crazy solution yet. As the quantum link closed, Maya looked out at the repair bays where teams of human and alien engineers were already discussing ways to refine and improve their emergency solution. The crisis had forced them to break nearly every rule in the book, but in doing so, they had discovered new possibilities that no one had imagined before. Sometimes, she reflected, you had to face the impossible to discover what was truly possible. And humanity, it seemed, had a gift for turning those moments of crisis into opportunities for innovation. In the months following the quantum wave crisis, Solaris Station underwent a transformation. What had begun as a repair facility evolved into something unprecedented. A galactic center for engineering innovation. Maya found herself overseeing not just repairs, but a growing community of engineers from dozens of species, all eager to learn the human approach to problem solving. We're going to need a bigger station, James commented one morning, reviewing the latest batch of applications for their newly established engineering exchange program. The Myriad Collective wants to send 50 of their neural engineers, and the Genri are requesting permanent research spaces for their bioship development team. Maya smiled, watching through the observation window as a team of human engineers worked alongside their alien counterparts, teaching them the fine art of improvisation. Remember when some species wouldn't even let us touch their ships? Now they're rebuilding their entire engineering programs based on our methods. The changes weren't just happening at Solaris. Across the galaxy, other human repair stations were becoming similar hubs of innovation. The integration of human engineering principles with alien technologies was producing remarkable results. In the Carina sector, a human collective collaboration had developed new forms of adaptive neural networks that could repair themselves using principles borrowed from human neural plasticity research. The Vorax had incorporated human-inspired redundancy systems into their temporal drives, making them both more stable and more efficient. Even the proudest species were beginning to admit that sometimes the best solution was one that broke all the rules. Dr. Rashid's hybrid ship design had sparked a revolution in spacecraft engineering. The prototype, built in collaboration with engineers from 7 different species, combined the best aspects of multiple technological approaches. Its quantum crystalline hull could adapt and heal like a living organism, while its neural networks learned and evolved from experience. Most importantly, it could be repaired and modified using techniques from any of its constituent technologies. "It's beautiful," Amira said, watching the test flight from Solaris's control center. "Not because it's perfect, but because it's imperfect in all the right ways. It can grow, adapt, change, just like humanity." The success of the prototype led to an unexpected development. Species that had long been technological rivals began reaching out to each other, sharing knowledge and techniques that had previously been closely guarded secrets. The human approach to engineering, with its emphasis on experimentation, adaptation, and learning from failure, provided a common ground where different technological philosophies could meet and merge. Maya found herself mediating these exchanges more and more often. Today, she was overseeing the particularly delicate collaboration between hegemony crystal shapers and Genri biotechnologists. The problem, the hegemony engineer explained, their surface showing frustration patterns, is that our crystalline matrices reject the biological components. The patterns are too rigid, and our organic structures cannot maintain stability within pure crystal formations, the Genri biotechnologist added, their bioluminescent tendrils pulsing with anxiety. "We have reached an impasse." Maya thought about it, remembering something from Earth's history. "Have either of you ever heard of grafting? It's an ancient human agricultural technique. Instead of trying to force 2 different plants to become one, you create conditions where they can grow together naturally." She pulled up a holographic diagram. "What if we stopped trying to force your technologies to merge, and instead created an interface where they could learn to work together? Something that could adapt to both sides." The concept proved revolutionary. By applying principles from human agriculture, medicine, and materials science, they developed a new form of crystalline organic interface that could gradually adapt to both technologies. The implications went far beyond shipbuilding. Suddenly, dozens of previously incompatible technologies had the potential to work together. But not everything was smooth sailing. As human methods spread, some traditionalists pushed back, arguing that these hybrid approaches were dangerous and untested. The debate came to a head when a prototype hybrid drive system failed spectacularly during testing, destroying an unmanned test vessel. Maya found herself defending human engineering principles before a gathering of galactic engineering authorities. "Yes, the test failed," she acknowledged. "But failure is how we learn. Every failed test teaches us something new, brings us closer to success. That's the human way." She pulled up data from the failed test. "Look at what we learned from this failure. The interaction between the quantum field and the biological components revealed 3 new principles of quantum organic physics that nobody had even theorized before. In trying to solve one problem, we discovered the keys to solving a dozen others. The gathered authorities were silent for a long moment. Then, one by one, they began to understand. The human approach to engineering wasn't just about fixing things. It was about learning, adapting, and growing from every experience, even the failures, especially the failures. As the debate settled, a new pattern emerged in galactic engineering. Species began establishing their own hybrid research and development centers, modeled after Solaris Station. These facilities became melting pots of technological innovation, where different approaches and philosophies could combine in new and unexpected ways. James found Maya in her office late one night, reviewing plans for Solaris Station's expansion. "Did you ever think," he asked, "when we first started fixing impossible problems, that we'd end up changing how the entire galaxy approaches engineering?" Maya shook her head, smiling. "We didn't set out to change the galaxy. We just did what humans have always done. We looked at problems from new angles. We weren't afraid to try crazy ideas, and we learned from every mistake along the way." She gestured at the streams of data flowing across her screens, reports from hybrid research projects, results from experimental technologies, proposals for new collaborations. The galaxy had all these amazing technologies, all these brilliant minds, but they were all stuck in their own ways of thinking. Sometimes it takes an outside perspective, someone who doesn't know something's impossible, to show what's really possible. "Human ignorance saves the day again," James grinned. "Not ignorance," Maya corrected. "Hope. Humans have always been good at hoping something might work, even when all logic says it shouldn't. And sometimes, hope is the most powerful engineering tool of all." 5 years after the quantum wave crisis, Solaris Station had grown almost beyond recognition. The original repair docks were now just one part of a sprawling complex that included research facilities, engineering academies, and collaborative workspaces where species from across the galaxy came together to solve the universe's most challenging problems. Maya stood in the newly completed Grand Observatory, watching ships of all kinds move through the repair and research docks. The variety was staggering. Hegemony crystalline ships alongside Genri bioships, collective neural vessels next to Vorax temporal cruisers, and dozens of new hybrid designs that defied traditional classification. Director Patel, a young human engineer, approached, accompanied by representatives from 3 different species. "We've completed the initial tests on the universal repair interface." Maya turned, trying to hide her excitement. This project represented everything they'd been working toward. A standardized system that could adapt to repair any type of technology, combining principles from dozens of species into a single, flexible approach. "Show me," she said. The demonstration took place in one of the new hybrid testing chambers. The interface, a shimmering construct of crystal, organic matter, and quantum fields, adjusted its structure as it was exposed to different technologies. It could form crystalline bonds with hegemony ships, establish neural links with collective vessels, and generate biocompatible connections with Genri craft. The key breakthrough, the hegemony engineer explained, their surface showing patterns of pride and amazement, was not trying to make it perfect for any one system. Instead, we made it adaptable to all systems. It's very human. We even incorporated your species' tendency toward redundancy and improvisation," the collective engineer added, their neural patterns pulsing with enthusiasm. "The interface can develop new repair protocols on the fly when it encounters unknown technologies." Maya smiled, remembering those early days when other species had viewed human engineering methods with skepticism or even horror. Now, human engineering had become a recognized discipline throughout the galaxy, taught alongside traditional approaches in every major technical institution. But the changes went far beyond mere technology. The human approach to problem solving had begun to influence how species approached challenges in other fields: diplomacy, medicine, environmental management, and more. The willingness to experiment, to learn from failure, and to combine different approaches in unexpected ways was reshaping galactic civilization itself. "Director," James called over the comm, You're needed in the Crisis Response Center. We've got an interesting one. The Crisis Response Center had been established after the quantum wave incident, designed to tackle major engineering emergencies throughout the galaxy. Maya found Amira already there, studying a holographic display of what appeared to be a spatial anomaly. The Arcturian Nexus is experiencing some kind of dimensional instability, Amira explained. It's affecting travel and communication across 3 sectors. The local authorities have tried every standard solution in their database. Maya studied the readings. So they called us because they need someone to try something non-standard. Exactly. Amira grinned. Want to help me figure out how to patch a hole in space-time with duct tape and optimism. Just like old times, Maya agreed. Get me a channel to the Nexus authorities. And see if any of our hybrid ships are in range. We might need their adaptive capabilities for this one. As they worked on the problem, Maya reflected on how far they'd come. The galaxy had changed in ways nobody could have predicted when humans first started fixing impossible problems. Their repair stations had evolved into centers of innovation. Their engineering principles had influenced fields far beyond technology, and their willingness to embrace the unconventional had opened up possibilities that no single species could have discovered alone. Later, after the Nexus crisis had been resolved, using a creative combination of quantum fields, biological adaptation, and what one hegemony engineer termed typically human random inspiration, Maya found herself back in the Grand Observatory. She was joined by Ixel, the same hegemony engineer who had first visited Solaris Station with the damaged Eternal Dawn. I've been studying human history, Ixel said, their crystalline form showing patterns of deep contemplation. Your species went from primitive chemical rockets to becoming the galaxy's leading innovators in less than 3 centuries. How? Maya thought about it. I think it's because we never stopped being the species that had to make do with chemical rockets. We learned early that perfect solutions are rare, but good enough solutions that can be improved over time will take you just as far. We brought that mindset to the stars with us. She gestured at the busy repair docks. Look out there. Every species brought their own technological marvels to the galaxy. Quantum crystals, living ships, neural networks, temporal engineering. But humans, we brought something different. We brought the ability to look at all of those marvels and say, yes, and what if we tried this? Ixel's surface showed agreement patterns. You brought chaos to our order. We brought adaptability to your stability, Maya corrected. The galaxy had all these amazing technologies, but they were static, unchanging. Humans showed that it's okay for technology to be a little messy, a little unpredictable, as long as it can grow and improve. The alert chimed softly, another impossible problem somewhere in the galaxy, waiting for a human solution. Maya smiled. They would solve it, just as they had solved countless others, not because they were smarter or more advanced, but because they were willing to try things that no one else would consider. That was humanity's true gift to the galaxy, not any specific technology or technique, but a mindset that said nothing was truly impossible. Any problem could be solved if you were willing to think differently, learn from failure, and occasionally break all the rules in the name of progress. As Maya headed off to tackle the latest challenge, she thought about how fitting it was. Humanity had reached the stars dreaming of finding advanced alien civilizations to learn from. Instead, they had found that their greatest contribution to the galaxy was teaching other species how to think a little more like humans. Sometimes the best solutions came from the most unexpected places. And wasn't that the most human lesson of all?